What's up guys, my name is Brovex and today I'm going to be showing you guys how to wire and install LED lights. We're going to be using the LED lights for our headlights, for both our high beam and our low beam, and we're also going to be using LED strips just to make the bike more visible. So here's some equipment you'll be seeing in this video. Now we're going to be going over methods that utilize controllers, switches, fuse taps, wire taps, and so on. So you're going to pick the best method for you and utilize that equipment. So before we get started, I quickly want to go over the basics of wiring. What you do is you take a wire and a wire stripper and strip the insulation off the end of a wire. You then take the connector, whichever one you might need for the specific situation, and you crimp it to the end of the wire. So these are all the different types of connectors we're going to be using in this video. I thought it was important to show you this wiring method up close, just in case you get confused later on in the video. So let's get started. So the first method I'm going to be showing you guys is great because you don't have to cut into any of the existing wiring of the vehicle or boat you're installing your lights on. What you'll be needing is something called an AddA Fuse, and what it basically does is it taps into the power of the fuse box. So the first thing you want to do is locate your fuse box. Then you want to determine which fuse you want to tap into. I use this specific method to wire in my low beam headlight. So what I had to do was remove the fuse that regulated the power to that source. I then used a circuit tester to make sure that power was only going to be sent to my headlight when the bike was on. To use a circuit tester, what you have to do is take the ground wire and place it onto a metal part of your vehicle. You're then going to take the metal probe and place it into the fuse holder. What's supposed to happen is if power is going through the circuit, the light within the probe should light up. So what I did was I turned the bike on and off, and what I noticed is that when the bike was in the on position, the light turned on, and when I turned the bike off, the light turned off, which is exactly what we wanted. So there's also a high beam fuse, so you can use this method to wire in your high beam. What's really cool about this is that the light will only go on when you use the high beam switch of the vehicle. Now I'm going to be using a different method to wire in the high beam, and I'll show you that later on in the video. So to continue with the wiring of the low beam, what you want to do is take your AddA Fuse and plug in 2 fuses. The fuse rating should be the same as the original fuse, so in this case I plugged in 2 15 amp fuses into the AddA circuit. You're now going to take a wire long enough to reach your headlight. What you're going to do is take the red wire and hook it up to the AddA Fuse. This is going to be our power. For the black wire, or ground, we're going to add a connector. In my case, I added a circular connector. And I knew I was going to put this onto a bolt connected to the chassis. Now what you want to do is connect the other end of the wires to the headlight, and this is going to be enough to power it. What I'm going to do in addition is add a controller to be able to control the brightness of the headlight. To add the controller is pretty simple. All you have to do is cut the wire connecting the headlight to the AddA Fuse. And wherever you made that cut, you're going to use butt connectors to connect the controller. Just be aware that the controller is supposed to have a specific orientation. So as you can see, we can now control the headlight brightness with the controller. The controller also has another feature that allows you to strobe the light, and although it's not useful for the headlight, I think it would be pretty cool if it was hooked up to an LED strip. So here's the final wiring of the low beam headlight using the AddA Fuse and the controller. So we're now ready for another method of wiring. What we're going to be using is a wireless LED dimmer. What's nice about this method is that the controller itself acts as a connector between the LED light we'll install and the bike wiring. So there's going to be minimal cutting and stripping of wires. This is a license plate light that I took off the bike, so I'm going to be utilizing the wires as my power source. Now the wiring for this is pretty simple. All you have to do is take the power and ground wire of the license plate light and connect it to the controller. Then you're going to take the power and ground of your LED lights and also connect it to the controller. So as simple as that, we're all done. Now every time you turn on the bike, the LED light will come on. We also have the added benefit of this wireless controller, so you can control the brightness of the LED as well as turning it on and off. What's really cool is that whatever setting you leave it on will remain until you change it again with the controller. Now another cool thing you can do with this method is use the battery as your power source instead of the power from the license plate light. By doing so, you can always turn on the lights and control them even when the bike is off. So in this next method, we're going to be utilizing a 3-prong on and off switch. There's 3 things that need to be connected to the switch. That's the power and ground of your power source, and the power that needs to be sent to the accessory, in this case being an LED strip. So for this specific scenario, I'm going to be using the battery as the power source. So I've created a wire with the appropriate connectors. We're now going to take the power and ground wires of our power source and connect it to the switch. We're then going to take the other end of the wires and connect it to our power source. Now for the power and ground of the LED light, what we're going to do is take the ground wire and plug it directly to the ground of the battery. We're then going to take the power of the LED and plug it into the switch. So now with everything wired just the way we did, we have control of the LED light using our switch. In this next method, we're going to be tapping into the wiring harness. By doing so, we can utilize some of the switches of the vehicle. For this specific situation, we're going to be using the on and off switch for the high beam. This plug of the wiring harness sends a lot of information to the dash, which includes speed, gas level, oil pressure, but we're going to utilize the high beam indication. To figure out which channel of the plug you need to tap into, you can go online and find a wiring diagram, which will give you the information about the function of each channel. Now if you can't find your specific diagram, you can always use a circuit tester to test each channel, which will allow you to figure out which one you need to tap into. So what I did was I turned the power of the bike on, I put the high beam switch to the on position, I then started probing channels until the light turned on. When the light turned on, I went back to the high beam switch and switched it on and off, and if the light corresponded to the switches, I knew this was the high beam switch. To determine the ground channel, what you can do is use a circuit tester like this. You can take the red probe and put it into the power. You can take the black probe and then probe into each channel until the light turns on. When the light turns on, that's how you know this is the ground channel. So once you figure out the two channels you need to tap into, you're going to take your plug and expose the wires behind them. You're then going to find the two plugs that correspond to the channels that you need to tap into. And then we're going to use a displacement connector to connect our headlight to those wires, which are connected to the switch. The way you use a displacement connector is by taking the wire you want to tap into and putting it into the hole that's continuous. You're then going to take the wire of your accessory and put it into the hole that has the stop. You're then going to take long nose pliers and take the metal part and embed it into those two wires. This is what creates your connection. I wrapped all my harness plugs together, zip tied them in a plastic bag to prevent them from getting wet. Here's what my final wiring looked like. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you guys want to see more videos like this or have any questions, just leave it in the comment section below and I'll be sure to answer. This is Brovex, thanks for watching.